Hello and welcome to the Bluffton Center for Entrepreneurs Coffee Hours. We are recording this on Tuesday, June 2nd, and I have multiple guests with me, but my guest of honor today is Fred Steiner of the Bluffton Icon. Hello, Fred. Thanks for joining me. I give you credit for our turnout today. Welcome, welcome
Thank
to
you very
Coffee
Thanks
Hours.
for inviting me. I think this is a great idea. We'll see what problems we can solve in the next hour.
So I should mention, if you haven't met Fred, and sometimes I feel like everyone has met Fred, Fred is the owner of the Bluffton Icon and the Ada Icon, two online news sources. But Fred has worn a lot of hats before that. He was the executive director of the BCE. He was the CEO of the Bluffton Area Chamber of Commerce. And so he just brings a wealth of business experience to the table here. And so I have all kinds of questions for you, Fred, but why don't you just kind of tell us, where you are, right now in terms of a business, as a business person.
Okay, fine. Well, first of all, I'm in my office, which happens to be the basement of 226 Grove Street. And this is where I do my work. I'm involved in the Bluffton community, and also I'm also visit Ada periodically, at least once a week, and I see a lot of similarities between the two communities. Similarities that I never knew existed until I started going to Ada, and so we have similar issues in Bluffton as they do in Ada, and vice versa. It's an interesting way to kind of examine, at least how I examine Bluffton and how we deal with things. I'd like to say that this spring, I think that I've seen Bluffton. I think we have some very smart business people in Bluffton who need to be congratulated. They've been hit with something that they did not expect, and I think they've creatively found some ways to resolve getting around staying in business and that sort of thing. I'll give you some examples. Curbside pickup. Who would have thought that someone would even think of that? When the dough hook started doing it, I was like, wow, this is a great idea. And then suddenly it picked up with some other businesses, and I congratulate them to do that. Home delivery. The food store delivered things to my house. As like, wow, this is thinking outside the box. It's really something that I did not expect to have happen. I think that every business has picked up their Facebook abilities. I think they've raced ahead with letting people know what they're up to, and I find that really neat. I'm glad that that's taking place. I'm also realizing that masks, the request to have masks, if you're going to visit my business, has been largely responded with yes, we'll do it. I realize that's an issue, but I'm still very impressed that masks have generally been accepted, and for our small town, I think that we deserve some credit to recognize that. I've also I'm very impressed with the way the Etc. shop has reopened, placing requests of social distancing, the number of shoppers that they'll take. They've backed off on their hours momentarily, but again, it's a sign that they've thought it out. In my opinion, it's a sign that they've thought things through, and they want to survive, and they've figured out a way to do it. And I'm thinking about all these in terms of small townisms. This is one way we've done it. There are two businesses in Ada who unfortunately opened the week before the state closed them down, everybody down. And it's like, oh man, that's, they are now open, but just imagine if you opened your business and then a week later had to shut it down. So there's issues like that. So those are kind of things that I've noticed coming right out of this.
Yeah, I have to say, looking at the national news, I think for a long time, sometimes you feel at a disadvantage. You live in a small town. But if I were living in Las Vegas or someplace that relied, everyone come here, you know,
Sure.
The majority of people are coming from elsewhere.
Yeah.
You know, that's just an enormous handicap, you know, at
Right.
a time like this.
We've got, I think all of us have stories about our brothers and sisters or friends who live in large cities. My brother in Chicago sits in front of Costco waiting in line in a car for his turn to go in and shop. We certainly don't have that here. The idea of shopping local really has some meaning now. And I really appreciate the opportunity to be able to do that. And I hope other people find that same experience.
Yeah, I think.
And I'm forcing myself, not forcing myself, but I'm buying local out of habit. Can you believe that? Out of habit.
It used to be that if it was a big snowstorm and the roads were bad, I mean, you'd stay here. And now I ask myself, you know, is there a fancier ketchup in another town that I have to go find or something? I don't know. I have done so well with Bluffton resources that, you know, kind of fallen in love with Bluffton all over again.
Yeah. Good. Gets a good way to. Gee, that's almost a
Mitch,
phrase.
are you waving hello? Let me
over.
introduce Mitch Kingsley. Say hi, Mitch, so the Zoom recognizes you.
Hi there. Good to be here.
So, Mitch Kingsley is one of our village council members and a local attorney with offices on Main Street. Thanks for joining us today. Feel free to ask Fred questions as we go along. And then we also have Nicole McConaughey here, who is our executive assistant at the BCE. She's joining us from home.
Hello, it's nice to be here. Thank you for including me.
Yeah, I think the convenience of video is going to be with us for a long time after this. How many meetings have I just said, you know, oh, the plumber is coming, I can't be there. And now, really, it's a huge advantage.
Yeah, I'd like to just mention some of the what I think of as neat collaborations in Bluffton as a result of what's taken place this spring. First of all, I want to mention that I'm really happy to see that the farmers market open, and again, following guidelines that we've set up are largely being followed. So there's another example of something that I think we're able to pull off in a small town successfully. In terms of collaboration, I want to mention that the Chamber and the Icons collaboration with Business Survey is probably something that you and I, Paula, didn't realize would be so popular. We have an up-to-date listing of what businesses are open. I think maybe you can spell that out a little further. But the idea that we've captured that in a small town is impressive. Tell
Yeah,
us
I am really pleased, and I think we've all had to be creative. I figured out that Zoom documents would allow me to create a document where this business can fill in their phone number, their hours, their curbside service, etc. And it's like, it's done. I might have to, change some formatting, insert some hyphens on the phone number, that kind of thing. But technologically, businesses are able to communicate more easily. And I think communication is the big question here is, things are changing week to week, day to day. Do your clients or your customers know that?
Yeah, yeah. The interesting thing about that is that I watch Google Analytics on the icon to see who's looking at what, and that particular link is getting a lot of views. So people are looking at it because they want. That's where they're going to find out who's open, and that's a good feeling to be able to know that we can provide that. There are some other things that I find have happened that are interesting. This teddy bear phenomena is something that just didn't really mean anything to me, and so the icon started to request if you have a teddy bear in your window, let us know, and we put a map together. We have nearly 100 teddy bears on the map. It's pretty strange. It's fascinating. I think that first of all, we're able to show it, so you can go around, follow the map if you want. The fact that people have actually picked up on it is very impressive. I know that there's one in Mitch's window because I see it. It's a big one too. So anyway, that's just a kind of an interesting sideline to this whole thing. I think that there are other things that we will have to deal with, and one of them, in terms of one of the things that the icon is grasping with, is that the absence of events.
Mm-hmm.
There will be no swim meets. There's no car show. The Ride to Remember is not, it has taken a different form. Library reading summer reading program, the Trout Derby, all summer, well, many summer sports. Band camps. I don't know what's going to happen with band camps. Arts and Crafts Show, of course, Swiss Schumacher House, Open House, things that we ordinarily take for granted or expect will take place may not or won't. And so from what I'm experiencing is that those things may not take place, and I'm looking for other news events with a very small staff. So
Yeah.
that's a challenge for me, at least.
And how has reporting changed in general? Say council meetings, say other things. Are
Okay.
you in front of your computer all day now? How does it work?
Yeah, I want to congratulate the council on embracing. I'm not sure is it Zoom, Mitch, or is it the platform that everyone uses something different, but council has adapted a platform.
Yeah, council's on Zoom, using Zoom. And so it's interesting too to see that different, churches are finding a variety of ways to meet.
Yep.
Some are just broadcasting. Some are doing Zoom. Our Sunday school class has been using this quarterly that's written by someone. And in our last Sunday school class meeting, that author was with us. It was Laura Brenneman, who was a resident of Bluffton years ago. But she was there, you know, so we could say, what did you mean by that? And you know, that's a very interesting phenomenon.
Yeah.
Someone who's, you know, with this, you just don't kind of expect that, but then the medium allows people from all over the place to be involved.
Sure, sure. The interest, well, continuing on that, I think we've all learned Zoom and its cousins very quickly. Some of the other adaptations of that are funeral home memorial services that are online. I've also, the church experience has developed, and I'm thinking small town again, how we've been able to adapt to that. I think that what I've, one other thing, this is very interesting. High school commencements. Who in the world would have thought that you could actually watch a Bluffton High School and Ada High School commencement that don't exist? It's some people with some creative thinking, or either too much time on their hands. I think it's a little bit of both, but those are great programs, and I feel real good when I see things like that take place.
Well, my son's a high school senior at Bluffton, and that staff, Mrs. Oberly, Mr. Minning, I mean, they just work. I think they worked nonstop for several weeks there. They were so hands-on. They made everyone feel so, I got so choked up when we went to film our segments. I just, bravo for them. They were amazing.
Sure. And the only thing that I can think of before this was the library book discussion would Zoom in or bring in authors. That was, last year at this time, I'm thinking, wow, that is really some technology that I don't understand how they're doing that. And now we're all doing it. So interesting. How that affects things like the icon is very interesting, because here's the situation. Prior to that, and let's go back 10 years. Well, let's see, let's go way back and say that in my journalism history course, I was told that when photographs were developed, that was going to ruin the art of painting. It didn't. When the movie screen was developed, that was going to crash photography. It did not. When radio was developed, that was going to kill newspapers. It did not. When television was developed, that was going to kill radio. It did not. When the internet was developed, that was going to kill everything. And I don't know that it did. So now I'm on the internet, and suddenly everybody's on the internet. Is that going to kill people like the icon? I don't think so, but it's a thought. You know, it's interesting how these things develop, how we adapt to them, particularly in a small town.
Yeah, and the BCE has a mission to serve, we're at the corner of 4 counties. Sure. And so our mission has been to serve Allen, Hancock, Putnam, and Hardin counties. And now I feel like we can,
Right.
because no, you don't have to get in your car and come to town hall or come to, the coffee shop to see me. I can meet with you via Zoom or GoToMeeting or whatever platform, and provide you with a really convenient service. I don't see that going away. I'm thrilled with that.
True. It's just a way to adapt, and the naysayers who say, "Oh boy, life isn't going to be like it used to be," hey, it's going to be even more unusual than it. I can't wait to see what's going to happen next. It's going to be very interesting, I think. Um, uh, who knows what school is going to be like next year? I'm waiting to find out. There's an option to be at home and to be in the classroom, and I embrace that. Say fine. I think that also, while we're talking about BCE, this is a very important time for BCE, because there are businesses, small businesses particularly, who are asking questions and want to talk to somebody else who has the same problem. This is a great time for a conversation. So BCE's purpose is something that we had no idea what was in Rob Triplett's head when he thought about it. To be perfectly honest with you, when he invited me to join, I thought a little, oh man, what's this? And here we are. We're still at it. So good for us.
Yeah, I first came to the BCE as a prospective entrepreneur. I wanted to do something that there wasn't a job posting for what I wanted to do. So I was like, okay, I'll create my own company and I'll see if I can do that.
Yeah.
And I wanted to ask you, so you have a degree in journalism. You worked for a paper for many years. Did you ever expect to own your own business and be in this position?
No, I did not. I'm not a risk taker. I would rather follow the crowd than lead the crowd, as odd as that may sound. But here I am doing it. I think what I think. Let's see. I've got to word this correctly. This is community journalism that the icon is involved in, and the definition of that. One definition of community journalism, of course, is that we want to have more clippings on your refrigerator than anybody else. Honor rolls, people having job promotions, those type of things. So that we're a local niche, and we're trying to do that in a professional way. The awkwardness of several social media platforms, from my point of view, is that there are many opinionated things that are could border on libel, slander, and all of the above. I'm staying carefully within the canons of journalism. We're a member of the Ohio News Media Association. I should say one thing. Several years ago, I applied for membership in the Ohio Newspaper Association, and they denied our membership because I was not a print piece. Believe it or not, the Ohio News Association changed its name because I applied. And they changed their membership guidelines to accept news organizations like the Icon, and so we're an accepted platform for local news, and that's what we are. So it's interesting in that respect. I found that through Google Analytics, our viewership has not dropped during this period. We're just as solid as we have been. I'm sensitive to, locally sensitive to posting what I'd call too much depressing information about the pandemic. In fact, I can almost sense like, uh-oh, today I think I did too many things that are just not, you know, they're bad news. And of course, I'm not going to judge what's bad news and what's good news, but those are downers. And I know that people react like, oh, gee, there's this again. So I'm trying to balance that. I know that there's some very important news coming out of the State House on rules and regulations. And I've seen when we post those, people read them, which kind of surprises me. I didn't think that people would, but people are interested in that. We did a kind of a series on wear your mask proudly. I think we did over 25 people with masks. I did want to reinforce the idea that it's okay to wear a mask. And I hope that's what the notion was, and that was very positively received. So that was something that we can do locally, you know, that sort of thing. So that's what I'm trying to find, things that connect with people right now. I think one of the controversies of the summer will be the swimming pool. I'm glad to see it open. I don't know if I'm going to go swim or not. I just don't know. And I recognize that people, the decision, let me back up for a minute. And I want to applaud the Park and Recreation Committee for making a decision to open it in the way it did. Certainly not popular with people from out of town, but I'm certain that there are gray areas that can be resolved, and it's a work in progress. It's a what if situation that I hope will resolve itself. I know that there are some people who are really upset that, well, I can't swim in the Bluffton pool, blah, 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 all of that. There's not a small town pool in America that makes money, including the Bluffton pool. It doesn't make any money, but I think that the view is that that's not necessarily the purpose.
Yeah, I think that's a lesson for everyone to pay attention to, is that we don't have a precedent for what's happening. And so we have to establish what we think will work. And then after a week or two or whatever, hey, maybe we have something better. You know, I've been working in my wearing my other hat for the Chamber of Commerce, working with the Bluffton Farmers Market and Greg Probst. And I like to say it's kind of like herding cats. I mean, you have a big open space, you have all these people. If you start trying to direct traffic, well, good luck. You establish, you know, the basic guidelines. You appeal to people's generosity and good nature, and then you say, okay, you know, how can we do it better next week? What works and what doesn't work? And you have to applaud everyone who is patient and helps you deal with a tough situation.
Right. Yeah. So I do want to talk about a couple things that the Icon is doing this summer and into the future that I hope are new ventures. One was slowed down, and that is we came out with a postcard in connection with the book that we published on Bluffton photography. Oh, do you have one? Okay. Let's
Yeah,
there you go.
this set me off, Fred. I got on eBay. I've never been on eBay.
Oh boy.
I've been enlarging them and hanging them on the wall.
Sure.
To look at Bluffton as it used to be, I find it super inspiring.
Yeah. Well, I had hoped to come out with one a year. Well, okay, so that was 2 years ago. They're there, and they just haven't happened yet because I can't get out to find businesses to sell them and all that stuff. But that's something that I'm working on. Hold that one up again, if you don't mind. I want to point just kind of a funny thing out about that. Okay, so that's a picture of a Bluffton tennis court, which happens to be the location of Riley View Apartments today. So on this side of the stream. And the original photograph, Will Triplett photoshopped out a telephone pole that was at an angle.
Wow.
And I don't know how he did it. I have no idea how he did it. But in the original photograph, which I have somewhere in a file, there is a rather large telephone pole right going down like that. And I'm glad it's not in that photo because it's a better photograph. If I can just say a word about that picture, why I chose that one again, there's several things that are very important there. One is this picture is about 1905, okay? So in 1905, if there would have been billboards, if there would have been an interstate and billboards, that picture would have been a billboard for promoting Bluffton for the following reasons. It demonstrates that Bluffton was a very progressive community. It had leisure time. People could actually play tennis on more than one clay court. It's not a big deal, but you don't look at it, but that's leisure. The man almost in the center of the photo is not just anyone, it's Dr. J.S. Steiner, no relation to me, but he was a young, handsome doctor. So that photo is also saying, hey, we have a growing community here. We've got a doctor. There he is, saying that. Will Triplett, who took the photo, took the time to colorize this, sent it to Germany to colorize it, took out the ugly pole in the middle, and really made a message there that, hey, look at us. This is a progressive community, and that's what that postcard says to me. And we look at it and say, oh, that's neat, but there's a lot deeper things going on there, and there are other postcards like that also have messages. So I'm working on that. I'm also, one other thing that I'm crossing my fingers on, but the intention is by Thanksgiving, there will be another book available, and it's called Bluffton Anthology, A Creek Runs Through It. And this book will be a collection of essays from over not quite 20 writers, people who have lived in Bluffton, live in Bluffton now, who have basically, it's Bluffton from 1950 forward. People with, for example, Rick Ramsire, who graduated from Bluffton High School in the 80s, now lives in the state of Maine, is writing a story about how he took his quarry test. And there's a whole episode about that. And so that's what this book will be about. Short, 500 to 2,000 word messages, words. I interviewed Bill and Don Herr about the Bluffton rodeos in the 1950s. And if you can believe that there were rodeos on Harmon Field on July 4th with Brahma bulls and people riding them, read about it in the book. That's going to be there. I also interviewed Dr. Howard Shelley about doctoring in the 1950s. He has some really interesting stories about what it was like. I've also talked to one of the Triple Horn brothers who, believe it or not, was a Boy Scout in the 1950 Ohio-Michigan Snow Bowl game. He was directing people to seats, and as you've maybe seen there, that turned into a snow blizzard, that game, and the Bluffton Boy Scouts had to stay overnight in Columbus. He tells a story about that. It's an interesting story. And then I'll leave you with one more, and then I'll quit about this. And this is the best one. Did Elvis Presley visit Bluffton, Ohio?
What?
We've devoted several pages to that. And in a nutshell, in 1956, Elvis performed at Troy at the Hobart Arena. The next day he performed in Toledo. Now, how did he get from Troy to Toledo in 1956? And where might he and his entourage stop for gasoline?
Excellent. Yeah.
You will have to wait and read the rest of the story. It's pretty interesting. There.
Excellent. Wow. I cannot wait. Yeah. If you have not read, have not seen Fred's books, have not read them, I have 2 on my shelf, right? Tell me what your previous publications are. One is
Bev Amstutz, who was the chairperson of the Bicentennial, invited me to write a book for that. And that book is titled Bluffton, a Great Place to Miss. And it includes stories from each decade from 1900 to 1975. And that was sold out, although you can buy it on Amazon. And then I had worked with the Triplet family who have a large collection of Will Triplet's photographs. Will Triplet was a Bluffton photographer for 50 years. So you can imagine in just about every house with an attic in Bluffton has some Triplet photographs in them. And so I compiled many of those into another book called Bluffton, the Bluffton we, help me out, I've lost track of the name. Anyway.
the Bluffton we never knew.
Thank you.
It's right here.
Bluffton
right
we
here.
never knew. So that one, that's also there. And again, that's available on Amazon. And I've been collecting all kind of stories. I was trying to put a Bluffton ghost book together. I can do a chapter on ghost stories. I can't do an entire book, but I've got some good ones that will eventually come out. Not in the one that's coming out this fall, but anyway, that's another whole area.
How about a collection of your April Fool's stories?
Oh no. No, Derek Dukes apparently helped a country and western singer out on Interstate 75. His van broke down last year, and this country and western singer decided to write a song about Bluffton, and that was this year's April Fool's joke. And people are apparently still asking Derek if the group's going to come perform this summer. We don't know. So that was the intention, and this song skyrocketed to the top of the charts in country and western. I think the name of the group was April Pancake or something like that. Yeah, so anyway. Oh, geez.
So Fred, I wonder if you could just make a comment about the passing of a sort of an icon.
Yeah.
Fred's stock keeps going up because the people that tell stories like he does are, they're passing on. So the most tragic one recently was Chuck Hildy.
Yeah.
Just in the last couple of days. But we need to record these stories. We've always talked about how we should be recording Sam Diller's stories. And some of them are recorded, but there's so many that we would hear over and over in the shop, but they're going to be lost because people like me can't hold those things in here. So anyhow, Chuck, what do you say about Chuck?
Well, okay. In the next few days, you will read something on the icon about Chuck. I'm putting something together. For those of you who do not know, Charles Hilty was a Bluffton High School graduate from the early 1950s. He was the first Bluffton High School graduate to be admitted to the U.S. Naval Academy and turned it down for several interesting reasons. He became a journalist, and he later became the aide to U.S. congressman in central Illinois, and that person became the Secretary of Agriculture for the United States. And between, as he puts it, between one Bush administration and the Clinton administration for 12 days, he, Charles Hilty, was the acting director of the U.S. Department of Agriculture, the second largest department in the U.S. government. And I would add that he never sat on a tractor in his life, but that's neither here nor there. So Charles retired. He was also editor of the Bluffton News for many years, covered the Bluffton tornado, probably the most, up to now, most impactful event in Bluffton. And he wrote about it, and you'll see what he said about that. He also humorously came out with the only 7-page newspaper in existence. I'll let you think about that for a little bit. Almost got fired over it, but how could you come out with a 7-page newspaper? He did it. So, and also there's a lot of other things with Chuck. An interesting guy. His father, he would give me permission to say this. His father worked at the Triplet Corporation, and this kind of explains Chuck best of all. George Kettering, who invented the automatic starter, who changed automobiles from crank Model Ts to automatic starters, visited the Triplet Corporation. He asked Charles Hilty's father what he was doing, and Charles Hilty's father said, "Go to hell. It's none of your business." Okay. So who would have the nerve to tell Charles Kettering anything like that? That helps you put Charles Hilty in perspective. When you know that your dad told that to one of the great inventors of the 20th century. So Chuck had, had a lot of baggage, a lot of things to say about a lot of things. Interesting guy.
Well, thank you, Fred, for being being the recorder of stories, the teller of stories. Appreciate everything that you've helped me with in the past and in the future with the BCE and the Chamber. I want to encourage anybody who's watching this on a rerun to, you know, check in with the blufftonicon.com, blufftonentrepreneurs.com. We are both on social media. With these meetings, we are happy to talk with you on a regular basis. Our coffee hours are Tuesdays at noon and Thursdays at 6 p.m. Coming up, we're going to do some brown bags virtually. So it's funny. So these are coffee meetings without any coffee, at least today for me. Brown bags were called brown bags because you were expected to bring your lunch or your dinner, and then we would have a meeting. Well, so our brown bags are, I don't know when we'll ever have a real brown bag, but watch for those as well. And I think we're just going to sync the brown bags with that Tuesday at noon, Thursday at 6 schedule, so it can, you know, become a routine. Thanks again to everyone who joined us here in person by video. Fred, thank you.
Thank you, Fred.
Yeah.
And Mitch and Nicole.
Thank you, Nicole.
Please stay in touch, and I look forward to talking with you all soon.